May we have your attention, please? The 7th IIMEFC and 13th ICIEF will begin shortly. Should there be any technical errors during the meeting, this conference will be forwarded to WebEx. Please check the link showed on your screen, also the meeting number and password. We will read the housekeeping rules for this conference. Please ensure that your electronic device is fully charged. Use earphones for better sound quality. Use or select the virtual background that has been provided. Please use the chat box appropriately. Please ensure that you have stable internet connection. And during the event, participants are requested to turn on their camera feature and turn off the sound. And now we will read the health protocol. Keep a distance of at least 1.5 meters from others. Wear a mask. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Disinfect your hands regularly. Stay healthy by taking vitamins. And avoid sharing personal belongings. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. may all be seated. Honorables, Governor of Bank Indonesia Bapak Peri Warjio PhD, Senior Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia Ibu Destri Damayanti, Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia Bapak Dodi Budiwaluyo, Secretary General of International Islamic Fiqh Academy Professor Dr. Kutub Mustafa Sano, Head of Bank Indonesia Institute Dr. Solikin M. Juhro, distinguished speakers and moderator, Professor Marco Thiemann from Health University Malaysia, Professor Irwandi Jaswir from Inhat IIUM Malaysia, Professor Tariq Khan from Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University Turkey, Mrs. Amalia Sarasanti from Paragon Technology and Innovation Indonesia, Mr. Afdal Aliazar MBA from National Islamic Economy and Finance Committee, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to all of you. First of all, praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His grace and mercies so we can gather at the 7th International Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance Conference, IIMEFC, and the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance, ICIEF, today. Second, let us greet and pray to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had brought us to the path of light. This conference provides a great opportunity for prospective participants to enhance their knowledge, research findings, and experience in dealing with Islamic economics and finance. This event will also feature presentations by prominent international speakers with cutting-edge session topics. This year's conference is held online for the second time as we acknowledge that the global pandemic has become inevitable and the world is going through a challenging moment in many ways. To begin the program, let's start by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now, may we invite our international Qari, Ustadz Ilham Mahmudin SPD. He is the best runner-up of the International Quran Recitation Ceremony at Brunei Darussalam in 2017 and the winner of National Quran Recitation Ceremony at Padang in 2020. Please welcome Ustadz Ilham Mahmudin SPD to recite the Holy Quran.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فكلوا مما رزقكم الله حلالا طيبا واشكروا نعمة الله إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم لحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فإن الله غفور رحيم. ولا تقولوا لما تصف ألسنتكم الكذب هذا حلال وهذا حرام. هذا حلال وهذا حرام لتفتروا على الله الكذب. إن الذين يفترون على الله الكذب لا يفلحون. متاع قليل متاع قليل ولهم عذاب أليم. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Ustad Ilham, for reciting the Holy Quran for us. May Allah always give us guidance and help. Amen. Next, we would like to invite everybody to see the Bank Indonesia Institute Manifesto. Now may we call upon Head of Bank Indonesia Institute, Dr. Solikin M. Juhra, to deliver the committee report.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Governor of Bank Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Peri Warjio, Excellency Senior Deputy Governor Ibu Destri Damayanti, and Deputy Governor Bapak Dodi Budi Waluyo, former Bank Indonesia board members Bapak Syahril Syabirin, Bapak Aslim Tasudin, Bapak Hartadi Sarwono, Bapak Halim Alamsa, Bapak Endar, the Excellency Secretary General of International Islamic Fiqh Academy, Professor Dr. Hutub M. Sanu, distinguished plenary speakers, Professor Marco Thiemann, Professor Irwandi Jaswir, Professor Tariq Khan, and Mrs. Amalia Sarasanti, and the moderator of plenary session, my brother Afdal Aliasar from Keynote Indonesia, and member of editorial board of the Journal of Islamic Monetary and Finance, GIMF, honorable official and guests from Bank Indonesia and government institution. I especially mention Bapak Venture Arjo, Executive Director of Kinex, and also Bapak Edi Purnawan, Chairman of the SPE. Esteemed guests from partner institution, private sectors and academia and research institution, webinar participant from Indonesia and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon us. Very good morning. Salawat and salam be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the seal of prophets and the messenger of God. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. First of all, let us extend our praise and gratitude to Allah, the Almighty God, for only by His blessing and permissions we all can get here to have our partaking in the 7th International Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance Conference and the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economic and Finance, which will be held for 2 days until tomorrow. This year conference is very special, inshallah, as it is for the first time the annual International Islamic Monetary Economic and Finance Conference and International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance are conducted in parallel sessions. This year is the second time we come together to join this event that is conducted virtually. So it is a kind reminder that global pandemic is not an obstacle for us to hold this conference. We may be physically distanced, but socially as human beings, we remain close. And we have learned a lot of positive lessons during the last 2 years pandemic era. Inna ma'al usri yusra. Fairly along with every hardship is relief. The title of this year conference is Strengthening Islamic Economic and Financial System in the Post-Pandemic Era, Digitalization and Sustainability. Through this broad theme, and in light of the ongoing unprecedented global economic challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, this conference encouraged the strengthening Islamic economy and financial system in informing policymakers on the appropriate policy mix to respond to the ongoing pandemic and in preparing for the post-pandemic era and digitalization. It has happened in previous years. This year conference is also held in conjunction with the Indonesia Sharia Economic Festival, or ICIEF. We have collaborated 7 times with Indonesia Sharia Economic Festival and will continue, inshallah, to support this important and biggest annual Sharia festival in the region in the years to come, inshallah. On behalf of Bank Indonesia, I would like to also sincerely thank all prominent scholars and dignitaries for their enthusiastic partaking in this virtual conference. Thank you all for allocating your valuable time. Distinguished guests, conference participants. Alhamdulillah, this year's program has received encouraging response from researchers and academia around the world. This year, we have received 251 submitted papers. As a reference for similar academic forums, this is a very significant number in the midst of today's difficult times. These papers are originated from 27 countries. 111 out of the submitted papers, or around 44% of the papers, are written by international authors, and 56% by Indonesian or mixed authors, signifying the improved visibility of the Journal of Islamic Monetary and Economic and Finance, or JMF, in the international level. In selecting the invited papers, we have implemented a very competitive selection process and review undertaken by well-competent scholars. At the later stage, this invited paper will also be considered for the publication in the JMF, and after regular peer review process may be published in the regular issues of JMF. Specifically, as a part of our transformation agenda, starting this year, we have invited new prominent scholars to serve as the member of the JMF Advisory Editorial Board members. Accordingly, allow me to mention these new members, namely Professor Salina Kasim from International Islamic University of Malaysia, Professor Irwandi Jaswir from International Institute of Halal Research and Training, International Islamic University Malaysia, Professor Muhammad Maksum Billah from King Abdulaziz University, Dr. Muhammad Obaidullah from Islamic Research and Training Institute, Islamic Development Bank, and Dr. Syed Aun Rizvi from Lahore University of Management Sciences and Apaya. Let me also mention that in the last 3 years, Bank Indonesia Institute has continued to enhance strategic partnership with various institutions. This has led to positive contribution to the advancement of economic research ecosystem in Indonesia. Here, I would like to mention the recently formalized collaboration with the Islamic Research and Training Institute and Islam International Association for Islamic Economies, ICIEF, which will certainly further strengthen our previous established collaboration with the International Center for Education in Islamic Finance, ICIEF, Malaysia. We also collaborate with domestic institutions such as Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah, INEX, Ikatan Ahli Ekonomi Islam Indonesia, YAI, Institut Pertanian Bogor, and also Badan Amil Zakat Nasional, and inshallah more to come. This strategic collaboration is aimed at promoting a more vibrant policy research environment, especially in the area of Islamic economy, Islamic economics and finance. Distinguished guests, conference participants, on that final note, I would like to end my report. On behalf of Bank Indonesia Institute, again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the distinguished speakers, all participant partner institutions, the organizing and scientific committee, as well as my dear colleagues from Bank Indonesia Institute and Department of Sharia Economic and Finance, DEX, for their great effort in delivering the success of this event. Now, allow me to respectfully invite the Secretary General of International Islamic Faith Academy, Professor Dr. Kutub M. Sano, to deliver a keynote address, and further followed by the Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, to deliver his keynote address and officially open this international conference. Have a good moment and productive discussion. Thank you. Wallahu muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Esteemed guests, we are now going to listen the keynote speech by the Secretary General of International Islamic Fiqh Academy, Professor Dr. Kutub Mustafa Sano.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Your Honorable Excellencies, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good morning to all of you. It is too early in Jeddah. Roughly it's 5:30. We are talking to you. We just finished Fajr prayer. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, for enabling all of us to meet again and again after 2 years of trial and difficult moment that humanity has gone through. I would like to take this opportunity again to thank Bank Indonesia for inviting us to be part of this conference. Indeed, it is an honor for me that Bank Indonesia has chosen me to deliver to you this keynote for this conference. Therefore, I would like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me just go straight because I have only 10 minutes to talk. I have said, and I continue to say, that our Islamic economy, it is an economy of inclusivity and justice and humanism. For years back, nobody could have imagined that the whole world would have been affected in 2019 by unprecedented pandemic, which has taken away from us almost 5 million lives around the globe. As of today, we talk about 5 million people have passed away to this pandemic, COVID. This unique pandemic has affected and paralyzed every single aspect of our lives. Millions of people have lost their job, and the world economy is experiencing a recession, and the poverty is expanding its scope. Nations, through its thinkers and policymakers, are multiplying their efforts in order to overcome quickly the impact of this pandemic socially and economically. Indeed, it is not surprising at all that all countries have been offering a series of stimulus economy and packages, hoping their economics would come out stronger and more resilient after this unprecedented global. Yes, there is a need to carefully rethink our priorities, to progressively redesign our strategies and the financial system which we do have in place in order to make it stable, just, resilient, and inclusive. If the Islamic economy, by definition, referred to an economy of principles and norms and moral that guide every aspect of the economic activities and process, therefore, this economy must be resilient, relevant, and capable to turn every economic challenge into opportunity and every recession into growth by offering innovative strategies and pragmatic approaches. Brothers and sisters, beloved followers, and those people are listening to us through this following, to do so, we as Muslim scholars, International Islamic Fiqh Academy, and all of these inspiring and wonderful institutions around the world, we do have moral duty to put together our intellectual efforts to demonstrate the relevancy of Islamic economy. The time is now to prove the existence of this economy. It is known to be around, it's been accepted around the globe. But the time is to prove that it is relevant to our realities. The time to prove that this system could help humanity to get out of this tragedy, to this difficult moment. We must make use of all of our things, our thoughts, our ideas, our programs, our activities to prove this, not to do anything else, but to be more relevant and to be more acceptable. The Islamic economy has to prove itself to be more resilient. There's no way to do so if we continue to do the same way we used to do this economy, our economic activity before this pandemic. The pandemic has taught us that we have to be more progressive, we have to be more pragmatic, and we have to be more flexible. Luckily for Muslims, our principles are very flexible. Our principles are not so complicated. It's just a matter of ways, a matter to find ways and means how to put them into practices. Brothers and sisters, today we have this challenge before us, and we have been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who offered us this principle, who gave us a guidance, whereby we could go to this guidance and we could refer to this guidance to strengthen our reality, to change our reality, to not get desperate for whatever it has happened and what is going on. In order to do so, the strengthening of Islamic economy or the social, this is financial system. There's no other way for us. We have to give more attention and particularity to the social finance. I would say over here that the institutions that we have been going for Islamic economy all the years, for the last 3 decades, we have been talking about banking. We have been talking about financial institutions. And the time has come that we should move and start talking about the Islamic social finance. This Islamic social finance is a key answer to this pandemic era. It is the key answer to prove to the humanity that Islamic economy, which does not only a profit-based economy, but it is also a non-profit-based economy. Therefore, the promotion of this Islamic social finance should be our priorities today. What we do mean by this Islamic social finance, we have institutions in Islam have not been utilized fullest. These institutions, at the top of it, you have the institution of zakat. You may know today that we are having in hand more than $600 billion under the name of the institution of the zakat. Could you believe that if it is well managed, it's well distributed, and once we've been distributed, we wouldn't have, I'm not talking about the Muslim poor, I'm not talking about the poverty in the Muslim country, but even in the whole world, the poverty will be far from us. Brothers and sisters, this Islamic social finance should be our answer today. And this Islamic social finance would enable us to become more relevant to the reality. Indonesia has potential to become a hub for this Islamic social finance. Being the biggest Muslim populations on the earth, it has this opportunity that would have to put in place. Bank Indonesia should come along with our scholars, our learners, in this Majlis Ulama Indonesia, to put a hand in hands to make sure that Islamic social finance has started to provide its answers. It has to provide its opportunities for those people who are willing to see this Islamic economy. Strengthening Islamic economy should go through the promotion of this aspect, this mechanism. We have been talking and we have been establishing a lot of good ideas, a lot of good initiative when it comes to the banking, when it comes to the financial institutions. We have our takaful institutions, we have the insurance institutions, we have our banks all over the place. Thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for enabling Islamic banking itself to become a reality. Today, we have no choice but to accept it, but we need to improve ourselves. We do not want just to be around. We do not want just to be known, but we want to be relevant, and we have to be a problem solving, a solution for all the problems that economics and the humanities face today. Brothers and sisters, I wouldn't take much from your time. I would just focus on this. And I do know that these international conferences, it is a place, it is a time for all of us to work harder to make sure that whatever we will be doing today will have impact on our life and the life of our beloved brothers and sisters around the globe. As I think these conferences should enable you and all of us to come out with resolutions, with recommendations that should not live only, should not stay in the process, in our proceedings, but it will have to be put into practice. And I do believe that back Indonesia has this capacity to transform, to turn all of this with assistance of the International Association of Islamic Economy. I do believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us another chance to prove to the humanity that Islamic economy does matter, and that Islamic economy could make it, and that Islamic financial system itself is more relevant than ever before. But it's not just a talks, but should be practices. Let us go to this institution of Islamic social finances. Let us go and try to improve and make sure that our zakat institutions are well managed. Our zakat institutions are doing what is expected from them. Let us go and try to make sure that our waqf institutions is the most relevant to the humanity. Let's even go and see and make sure that our institution of the wills, which is lacking in our Islamic social finance, in Islamic society, Islamic economy. We don't talk that much about this mechanism. They have proven to be the solution to the poverty. They have proven to be the solution to whatever the humanity is faced today, especially after this post-era, this is of a pandemic. If we have managed this one, we have enhanced 600 billion from the zakat money. And now you have more than 500 billion in what do you call it, the waqf money. In addition to that, you come out with the wills, and then wherever you will get to institution. Believe me, brothers and sisters, the poverty will get away from our life. This is the main objective. We want it to be shared. We want the wealth to be shared by the humanity. We want to have a more just and very, very prosperous environment. We want to enjoy the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wealth is belong to Allah, and we have been entrusted to manage it. And let us manage it based on its instructions, based on his instructions, based on his guidance. And that one will make sure, will help enable, will make all of us happy in our life. I would like to say at the end of this keynote, thank you very much, Bank Indonesia. Thank you very much for IAIE. Thank you for all the partners who have supported this wonderful conference. Today and forever, International Fiqh Academy will be at your side to come out and help to build this concept, to promote this concept, to make this concept a reality. And I hope that Indonesia will prove again that it is a great nation, it is a great country, by promoting, by turning. For the year to come, we will be referring to this as a hub of Islamic social finance. I believe, and I do believe, that this is going to happen, and it's happening right now. Through this conference and other conferences, we'll make sure that our thoughts become reality. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters, for the opportunity. And thank you for everything good things we are doing for the sake of the Islamic economy, for the promotion of Islamic financial system, for making sure that Islamic, which is a human economy, which is a just economy, which is a straightforward economy, and which is a very, very capable economy to solve the problems and to tackle whatever we are faced today. And I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us and accept our beloved who have left us due to this COVID. And may He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, protect all of us and see the day that our next conference will not be through the Zoom, but will be in place, and I will be talking face to face and finding the solution to the problems that we are faced to. Thank you very much. Wabillahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Professor. Next, may we have the honor to invite Governor of Bank Indonesia, Bapak Peri Warjo, PhD, to deliver the keynote speech and to officially open the conference.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Profesor Dr. Qutub M. Sano, Secretariat General of ICIEF Saudi Arabia. Distinguished speakers of the plenary session, Profesor Tariq Khan, Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University, Turkey. Profesor Irwandi Jaswir, International Islamic University, Malaysia. Profesor Marco Thiemann, Halal University, Malaysia. Bapak Afdal Aliasar from Komite Nasional Ekonomi Keuangan Syariah as the moderator. Members of the Board of Editor Journal of Islamic Monetary and Economic Finance, attendees from partner institutions, the private sector, academia, and research institution, webinar participants from within and outside the country. Alhamdulillah Irabbil Alamin. Praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, which provide us health and strength so we can gather this morning in this very important conference and seminar. Salawat and salam we convey to Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, along with family, friends, and all of us who touch us and bring us from the darkness into the light. This year, the 7th International Islamic Monetary, Economics, and Finance Conference is indeed special because it is held together with the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economics and Finance, co-hosted by Bank Indonesia and ICIEF, Indonesian Islamic Economics Association, Komite Nasional Ekonomi Keuangan Syariah, National Committee of Syariah Economic and Finance, Institut Pertanian Bogor, as well as Basnas as part of the 8th ICIEF Indonesia Syariah Economic Festival 2021. I'm grateful and happy that this 2 days conference bring together highly competent Islamic economists, speak and also share the knowledge and valuable views to bring the more important thing of developing Islamic economic and finance. Ladies and gentlemen, blessed by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, we are still living in pandemic, but we are grateful as well as faithful. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will bring about progress and solution to our problem. This is the spirit that we bring together. On that note, let me share the following 3 aspects. First, we need to continue of bringing together the benefit of free trade among the countries. Please do not lose sight. On the back of pandemic, we have to continue joining hand country by country, helping country that need vaccines to bring help for humanity. But above all, bring together free trade that Our Prophet Muhammad taught us of bringing of society of welfare through trade. This is the values that we have to continue uphold and continue to be even stronger from the pandemic. Second, pandemic also provide a lesson that digitalization is a key on accelerating the economic recovery. We have testified the rise of digital banking, electronic money, and e-commerce transaction to help the economy grow. This is also the case of Islamic economy. For instance, in August 2021, the e-commerce transaction value of halal industry commodities had increased significantly by more than 20% year on year, dominated by fashion product. To make a greater impact, the digitalization must establish end-to-end, creating an ecosystem of digital economy and finance, including, of course, to bring about more progress for our economic and finance Islamic, including halal industry, fashion, and food. Third, Islamic economic and finance, of course, need to do well, to do more on supporting the national and international and each country economic recovery. This is that we have to go more, which is need a more solution on how to progress on the economic and finance based on the Islamic values, not only in bringing about the Islamic economy and finance, but also mobilizing zakah, infak, sodaqah, and okaf. How to optimize those to bring about progress in the Islamic economic and finance. This is the spirit also in every country, including Indonesia. As the largest Muslim population country in the world, Indonesia, we go and also work together to mobilize zakat, infak, sodaqah, and okaf. And more than that, to be also progressing in the Islamic economy and finance, including for global halal product. Ladies and gentlemen, for closing, of course, I invite all our friends and researchers to share the knowledge, to bring about innovation, to bring about more thoughtful and also implementable solution to our problem. Of course, we have to do more because of the pandemic, and most of all because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala always provide more solution than the problem. This is the spirit that we Bank Indonesia is hosting this event together. IIM, AFC, and ICIEF together to bring scholars and researchers from all over the world to bring about this solution, innovation, and progress for the economic and finance based on the Islamic values. We also provide the Journal of Islamic Monetary and Bank Indonesia, Islamic Monetary and Economic Finance for all of you. Of course, this is Bank Indonesia contribution, a small contribution, hopefully as catalyst to bring together various ideas, exploring knowledge, and inspiring policy formulation in the field of the economic, finance, especially Islamic finance. On that note, we thank you and grateful, and of course, looking forward for all of you, speaker, contributor, discussion, and participant to this conference. Seeing the quality of the papers and their authors, we do believe we will and can do more to bring about more knowledge, more innovation in this conference. May Allah Almighty always bless us with the success and barakah. I thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Governor Periwarjo. Ladies and gentlemen, with the keynote speech by the Governor of Bank Indonesia, the 7th IIMEFC and the 13th ICIEF are officially open. Now we would like to invite you all to join a virtual group photo. Please ensure that your camera is on. The photos will be taken with our count. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone. Before we start the main agenda, allow us to invite Kiai Haji Muhammad Khalil Nafis LCMA PhD to lead dua.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ayuhal hadirun, wabil khusus Al-Muhafidz Bank Indonesia, Bapak Periwarjo, wal muhadirin, wal bahisin, wal musyarikin. Nakhtatim hadzal iftitah bidu'a ilallahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, rajian ayyakuna najihan wa mumtazan wa nakuna fi mardatillah. Nastaghfirullahaladzim, nastaghfirullahaladzim. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa sallim. Ya Allah, ya Rahmanu, ya Rahim, ya Fattah, ya Razak, ya Fa'alul lima yurid. Lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalal wajhil karim wa 'azimi sultanik. Allahumma inna nas'alukal huda wat tuqa wal afafa wal ghina. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ridhaka wal jannah wa na'udzubika min sakhatika wan nar. Allahumma innaka afun karim tuhibbul afwa anna ya karim. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana liwalidina wa liikhwatina wa masyayikhina wa muallifina wa man ahsana bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Ya amanal khaifin aminna mimma nakhaf ya waliyas kulana bina waqaf. Allahumma ja'al hadzal barnamij ya Allah najihan wa mumtazan. Allahumma ja'al hadzal barnamij ya Allah najihan wa mumtazan. Waj'al hadzal barnamij ya Allah li taqaddumi sya'bi wal insaniyati bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadza jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqan bi ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma. Allahumma hdina fi man hadait wa afina fi man afait wa tawallana fi man tawallait wa barik lana fi ma a'tait wa qina bi rahmatika syarra ma qadait. Fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda 'alait. Fa innahu la yadhillu man walait wa la ya'izzu man adait tabarakta wa ta'alait falakal hamdu ala ma qadait astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Allahumma dfa'anna al-ghalaa'a wal balaa'a wal wabaa'a wal riba wal virus corona wal fahsya'a wal munkar wa suyufal mukhtalifata wa syada'id wal mihan ma dhahara minha wa ma batan am baladina hadha khassah wa am buladil muslimina amma ya rabbal alamin. Rabbana la tada' lana dhanban illa ghafartah wa la aiban illa satartah wa la maridan illa syafaitah wa la dhalan illa hadaitah wa la hajatan min hawajid dunya illa qadaitah wa yassartaha. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afiyah wa tamamal afiyah warzuqna 'alal afiyah wa tamamal afiyah birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-khaira ajilahu wa ajilahu ma 'alimna bihi wa ma lam na'lam wa na'udzubika minasyarri ajilahu wa ajilahu ma 'alimna bihi wa ma lam na'lam. Allahumma inna nas'aluka min khairi ma sa'ala bihi nabiyyuka wa 'abduk wa na'udzubika mimma 'adana bihi nabiyyuka wa 'abduk. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-jannata wa ma qarraba ilaiha min qawlin wa 'amalin wa i'tiqadin wa na'udzubika minan nar wa ma qarraba ilaiha min qawlin wa 'amalin wa i'tiqadin bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين شكرا جزيلا تقبل الله منا ومنكم ثم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Kiai Haji Muhammad Khalil Nafis. May Allah bless us. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the end of our opening ceremony. May we inform you that the plenary session will begin shortly. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin our main agenda today, plenary session on Islamic economy, halal economy and industry for organic growth toward global value change with the prominent speakers. Before we begin the plenary session, we would like to ask moderator and all speakers to turn their cameras on as we will have a group photo. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, photo will be taken with our count. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone. And now we shall begin the plenary session. To lead the session is Mr. Afdal Al-Yasar, MBA from National Islamic Economy and Finance Committee. Before we invite our moderator, we would like to introduce him to you. Bapak Afdal Al-Yasar MBA is an Islamic economy and finance practitioner who is also an Islamic philanthropist. He is now a director of Halal product industry in the National Committee of Islamic Economy and Finance of the Republic of Indonesia, or KNEKS. He started his professional career by joining the banking industry at Bank Niaga and Citibank. He earned a master's degree on strategic management at Prasetya Mulia Business School. His interest in Islamic finance and Islamic economy made him pursue the industry by continuing to explore knowledge and expertise, including in ICIEF Malaysia, Durham University UK, Islamic Finance Qualification, Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment UK. In 2016, he established PT Pengelola Aset Islami Indonesia, where he directly takes part in various Islamic economy development and Islamic business projects. He also pioneered the productive wakaf scheme that is applied to business assets, which foster the sustainability of its business and benefits. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Bapak Afdal Al-Yasar, MBA.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Excellencies, the honorable speakers, distinguished guests, and all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to everyone. First of all, let us praise and thank to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, the most gracious and the most merciful, for only with His blessing that we may gather together at this remarkable event, the 7th International Islamic Monetary, Economic and Finance Conference, and the 13th International Conference on Islamic Economic and Finance. The seminar is being held in conjunction with the 8th Indonesia Sharia Economic Festival, ICIEF 2021. My name is Afdal Al-Yasar. I'm very honored to be the moderator of this first plenary session webinar. Our topic today in webinar in Islamic economy, halal economy and industry for organic growth towards global value chains. The discussion will be covered about global value chains and how Islamic economy and halal economy can accelerate the growth of global value chains of the industry, not only for Indonesia, but also for other countries, for global economy. We are very fortunate to have our prominent speakers today to share their thoughts in each 20 minutes. The first speaker will be Professor Tariq Khan from Istanbul Sabahattin Zim University. Professor Tariq Khan is currently a professor of Islamic Economic and Finance at Istanbul Zim University. Formerly, he was president for International Associations for Islamic Economic. He was also professor and program directors, master degree and PhD, Islamic Finance and Economy at Hamad bin Khalifa University, Qatar Foundations. His current areas of interest are healing ecology through economy, climate change, and greening finance, Islamic financial services, and Islamic economy and digital transformations. The next speaker will be Professor Marco Thiemann from Help University, Malaysia. Professor Marco Thiemann is a full professor with ELM Graduate School, Help University in Malaysia. He holds master degree in Industrial Engineering and Management Science from the University of Twente, the Netherlands, and a PhD in Business Management in Halal Supply Chain Management from the University Teknologi Mara, Malaysia. He is also the founder and Chief Executive Officer of LBB International, a supply chain strategy consultancy and research firm, as well as won academic award for his groundbreaking research in halal purchasing and halal supply chain management. The next speaker will be our best friends, Professor Irwandi Jaswir from INHART IIUM Malaysia. Professor Irwandi is the King Faisal Prize 2018 laureate in service to Islam. He currently works as a research coordinator at the Halal Industry Research Center, University International Islamic University, Malaysia, IIM Kuala Lumpur. He successfully pursued his studies at master degrees and PhD level at University Putra, Malaysia, and was conferred a Master of Bioscience in Food Science and Biotechnology in 1996, and PhD in Food Chemistry and Biochemistry in 2000, respectively. And the last one is Ibu Amalia Sarasanti from Paragon Technology Innovation Indonesia, the brand owner of Wardah, passionate marketer with more than 18 years experience in fast-moving consumer goods industry, including foods, personal cares, beverage, juice, ice cream, and of course, beauty category. She is the AVP and CMO of Paragon Technology, VP Marketing and Investment, Digital Transformation in Paragon Technology and Innovation, and also Senior Director before in Oral Care category from Unilever Indonesia. Graduate from Institut Teknologi Bandung, Industrial Engineering. Yeah. Okay. How are you, Professor Tariq? Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I can hear you, Brother Ahmad.
Yeah, thank you for joining our discussion. And how are you, Prof. Marco Thiemann?
Very good morning, Pak Afdal and fellow speakers. I'm very well. Good to see you here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco. And Assalamualaikum, Prof. Irwandi Jaswir.
Waalaikumsalam. Pak Afdal, and also fellow speakers. Good morning.
Yeah, very nice to see you again in our seminars. And Ibu Amalia, Assalamualaikum Ibu Amalia.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is an honor to be here with all of you.
Thank you. Yes, this is a very honor for me. In today's discussions, we will discuss with prominent scholars from around the world who has a very, very passionate in halal and Islamic economy development. Without any further ado, I will give the time to please for each of the speakers to deliver the thoughts and presentations. For the first, for the Professor Tariq Khan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can I use my PowerPoint here? It seems I can. Yeah, not
Yes.
that one. I'm very sorry.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, just
okay, Professor.
Yeah, can you see
Please.
me now? My
Yeah, that's good now.
Yeah, okay. All right. Assalamu alaikum and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My relationship with Bank Indonesia has a long history. We organized one of the major conference in 2003 on risk management and another conference on the challenges facing Islamic banking in Bali in 2004, and another conference through the association in 2006. That was the 6th international conference. So I'm grateful to Bank Indonesia to host this conference, which is the 13th conference and of the Association for Islamic Economics. And also thank you to all the other host institutions and co-organizers for helping us to organize this conference. In my brief discussion, I want to emphasize on, I don't know what's going on here.
Next. Yeah.
Yeah, here. I am not an expert in especially in the technical issues of the halal economy, but I want to share with you some of the strategic issues which I think the industry will face going forward. First of all, I want to mention about where we are in terms of the paradigm and where we will move in terms of the paradigm. So we are actually in the world economy, which is characterized to be a carbon economy. There is a lot of waste, there are a lot of emission, and then there is riba surrounding that economy. And because of the climate challenges and the policies of climate remediation and the transformation of technologies and government policies, this economy is very fast being transformed into a green economy, which is also called as the circular or green economy. So the first challenge going forward is, are we ready as a halal economy to move quickly in that transformation process from the current location in the linear or red economy to a more green economy, which is actually emerging in most of the countries. And you can see even in Indonesia, the strategy of the Bank Indonesia and OJK, they are trying to transform the economy to become more green and decarbonized. And this transition of the halal economy will be driven by eliminating waste, eliminating emissions. Of course, we are a zero riba economy. So that is one of the first challenges which we have to keep in mind. And the second, next slide, please, sorry. The second strategic issue, which it was not very clear to me, is about the scope and size of the economy. So, of course, there is this Global Islamic Economy report by the Dinar Standards. According to them, which is a narrower definition, scope of the halal economy, when a service or product is prohibited by Sharia, a permitted alternative to that service or product constitutes the halal economy. And of course, this requires certification. And from my point of view, this scope is very narrow. A broader scope probably is more useful, which is Islamic economy constitutes all what is permitted, including the halal certification need. So if we look at that, then the concept of the global economy in terms of size and impact will be much larger than the narrower scope of the halal economy. Next slide, please. Then I mentioned about the transformation of economies. Actually, this is a tremendous, and now scientists, economists, policymakers, technologists, all of these groups, they agree that the transformation of the economies is really unprecedented. What has happened is that those countries where the human development is higher have generated a lot of emissions. And when we are saying sustainable development, that doesn't mean that only the developing countries or poor countries have to develop. Much more burden is on the more developed countries. For example, Singapore's what we call as ecological footprint is 8 Earth. Instead of that, a more just and humane economy will require 1 Earth capacity. So how countries like Singapore, Europe, America, and other countries, China, are going to transform their economies from that 8 Earth capacity to 1 Earth capacity, that is a lot of transformation, and the halal economy will be really impacted by that. Next slide, please. Whereas on the other hand, beyond halal profits, inspiration from the Islamic worldview is, of course, the driving force of the halal economy, responsibility towards society. And if we look at the original inspirations of Islamic economics, where our messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is declared as mercy for the worlds. Rahmatul Alameen. That means not only for the Muslims, but for the non-Muslims as well, not only for the living species, but also for everything. So that responsibility is the driving force of the halal economy. Then man as a trustee of Allah on earth, which when we are a trustee of Allah on earth, then the responsibility on us is very, very serious. And then we are the ummah of the wasatiyah, the middle path. And the concept of mizan, al-mizan, the universal balance, and the injunctions against waste and tabzir, israf and tabzir, and the rights of passive stakeholders, future generations, which is a very important element in the maqasid al-sharia. So if we look at these inspirations from the Islamic worldview, then there is a lot of responsibility beyond the halal profits, which rests on the halal economy, which is a very strategic responsibility for the reason that in today's world, there is a race to responsibility. And if in that race to responsibility, we are lagging behind, then that will not be having a good implication for the growth of Islamic economy and the role it has to play. Next slide, please. So here are the drivers of the halal economy on the demand side and on the supply side. This is, of course, from the Global Islamic Economy Report 2020. A large and fast-growing and young Muslim population, Islamic values driving lifestyle practices, digital connectivity, growth of ethical consumption. So then on the supply side, government regulations, intra-OIC trade growth, participation of global top brands, national Islamic economic strategies, pluralistic and inclusion ideals in some of the major countries. And this, I want to make one point for the consideration of the other panelists is that basically the growth of ethical consumption is something very important, because there are many people who don't believe in halal haram, but they consume the halal because the halal is more better for the health. And now there's a competition with the organic product and the halal product in terms of being healthy for the for consumption. So the question arises is that is there a possibility of organic halal? And of course that would be costly, and then what Islamic finance can do to promote organic halal. And so that is one of the strategic challenges also to going forward. So with these few observations, I give the floor back to you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Tariqullah. It's very, very interesting thought about how Islamic economy and also halal economy develop, not only in the red economy, but moving to the green economy. Okay, participant, maybe we can have a discussion later. I will invite other speakers to present about their thoughts, and later maybe after Ibu Amalia, and we will continue for the discussions. The next, Professor Marco Thiemann. The floor is yours to share your thought about the Islamic economy, halal supply chain, of course. Please.
Thank you, Pak Afdal. Dr. Perry, Governor of Bank Indonesia, Professor Kutub, Sano, senior representatives from Bank Indonesia, Pak Afdal, Al-Aizar, Director KNIKS, fellow speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi, a very good morning to everybody. May peace be upon you in these challenging times. I would like, first of all, to thank Bank Indonesia and KNIKS for inviting me to this important conference. It's a great honor to present to you more insights into halal supply chains in a pandemic era, synergies between Islamic finance and halal industry to strengthen the halal value chain, and halal risk and reputation management. Thank you. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next. The lockdowns all over the world have created massive disruptions in farming, manufacturing, transportation, logistics, and trade. Global vessel schedule reliability has fallen from an average of 75% to 35%, which makes supply chain planning impossible. And with the dependence on global supply chains today, as supply chains are failing as we speak, including food supply chains. OIC countries in particular will be suffering, as most OIC countries are highly dependent on imports. That used to be not a problem with an oversupply from non-OIC countries that were most happy to supply to OIC countries. But these assumptions are now being tested. So what are the main bottlenecks in the halal industry and its supply chains? These are four. So first of all, OIC countries are dependent on global imports. Few countries in the OIC, with the exception of Turkey and Indonesia, are large agri-food exporters. Most countries are very dependent on even basic food products. Secondly, there is a lack of halal production clusters in OIC countries. And so clusters, or also known as halal parks, can become an important instrument in boost food production and also non-food production for OIC countries and also export. Thirdly, a big bottleneck is the harmonization of halal standards. Dr. Perry from the Bank Indonesia already highlighted in his speech the importance of free trade. Harmonization among ASEAN and RCEP countries is therefore important, but also OIC SMIC standards need to be adopted. Recently, in November 2020, OIC SMIC launched the OIC SMIC 17 standards for halal supply chains. So this is an important standard to be adopted to allow for free trade globally. Number four, it is important to control halal commodities and halal assets. So most halal assets and halal commodities are not in the hands of OIC. So there is an increasing need, a role for OIC countries to control trade of agriculture commodities, ingredients, and additives. So there's a need to brand the halal logo on exported agriculture commodities, ingredients, and additives by all OIC countries. And this is not always happening. Next slide. So I will be talking about the halal value chain. Next slide. Exactly 10 years ago, in the year 2011, my research paper, The Application of Halal in Supply Chain Management, in-depth interviews, was published in the Journal of Islamic Marketing. In this model, I describe that halal goes through an evolution through different phases, from a Muslim company, which is based on trust between people, to halal product, stage 2. Trust is based on the halal logo of the certification body. Third stage, the halal supply chain, where halal needs to be addressed end-to-end throughout the chain towards a halal value chain. So currently, Indonesia is in stage 3 of the halal supply chain. The Vice President of Indonesia Pak Maruf Amin last week called for halal value chain integration. So he is calling already to move to stage 4, the halal value chain. Next slide. In my research, I created a halal value chain model, which is the model you can see in front of you. So this model is adapted from Michael Porter, which some of you might already have been have knowledge of. So I changed some of the components in this model, supporting activities and primary activities, such as Sharia compliant infrastructure is important in here. When we talk about Sharia compliant infrastructure, there's a need for Islamic banking. There's a need for takaful. And takaful can be quite complex as we talk about insurance, also for fire, insurance for goods. There are not always Sharia compliant alternatives for all kinds of insurances a company has to deal with. We also talk here about corporate wakaf. These are part of a Sharia compliant infrastructure for companies. Halal is also addressed in other functions such as HR, sustainability, which is an increasing and important topic when we talk about climate change. Also, the importance of packaging is important. A lot of companies want to use recycled packaging, and there's still no consensus in the Muslim world about the use of recycled packaging for primary packaging of product that directly touches the product. So consensus is needed, and I also would call to the OIC SMIC to create a new standard for halal packaging. Halal procurement is an important function where procurement can be seen as an important bottleneck in any halal certification. Components I added to the halal value chain model based on the earlier value chain model from Michael Porter. I included also the importance of halal risk and reputation management. More on that later. Also, I included corporate zakat in here, which is important also for companies to implement. Next slide. So this is when we talk about a halal value chain, but a corporate value chain is part of a halal value network. And then it becomes even more complex because then we talk about Sharia compliant trade financing. Are international transactions halal? Because they all need to go through SWIFT system. And is the use of SWIFT system halal? The halal value chain and the halal value network is extremely complex to manage without a halal ecosystem. And this requires the need for an advanced cluster development in OSCE countries. One of these examples already happening today is in Indonesia called Modern Halal Valley. Next slide, please. So Modern Halal Valley in Indonesia, 1 hour away of Jakarta, they are creating a 500 hectares complete halal ecosystem. And this will be important for the future of OIC countries to create strong production system. Next slide. These production systems also need to be connected to a global network. So what already Modern Halal Valley has done, and they created a halal cluster network connecting Modern Halal Valley also to Europe through a halal cluster in Spain, other parts of Asia, and soon also to the Middle East. And halal clusters don't grow automatically. They need a halal cluster management organization. So Modern Halal Valley has created a halal cluster management organization called Halal Valley Society, where they have programs for farmers, programs for SMEs, large industry, and also link it to government and education and research. Next slide. Another topic I would like to highlight is on halal risk management. Next slide. In halal risk management, it is important to have both proactive and reactive strategies for an effective risk management. Most companies, however, they have established, when they want to get halal certified, a halal assurance system. And that is required, a document, if you want to get halal certified by a halal certification body. That is true for Indonesia under BPAPH, but also for other countries like Malaysia, where they have JAKIM, MUIS in Singapore, CICOT in Thailand, and there are many more halal certification bodies, and estimated 400 to 500 all over the world. For compliance sake, most companies expect that the halal assurance system, as it is good enough for halal risk management, but that is not true. You need far more building blocks for a proper halal risk management. So first of all, you need to have prevention in here. You need to have a halal supply chain blueprint that confirms your halal control points and control measures throughout your entire supply chain. Secondly, issue management is important. This is under mitigation. So what are your responses if there is an issue which requires a risk mitigation and communication plan? Very few companies, even large companies, do not have proper issue management. And they're looking at non-conformity in the halal assurance system, very basic, but they don't look at the whole management of the issue, which is also touching very sensitive Islamic values. Thirdly, an important building block is recovery. So this is about, you need to have a risk recovery and communication plan, a crisis manual that exactly tells you what to communicate to the consumer outside in order to improve and repair halal trust, Islamic values and networks. I see in my work a lot of crisis manuals that have not addressed halal at all. This is very risky because we have seen over the past years a lot of halal scandals or halal issues which became a big crisis for big brand owners. So it is necessary that companies better protect themselves and better protect their brands. Next slide, please. My next topic will be on halal reputation management. Next slide. A lot of companies assume that the halal image, also known in Indonesia as gambar, is the same as halal reputation, also reputasi in Indonesia. And halal image is often measured by big brand owners, which is just a reflection of reality, which is a perspective of the past. What is needed, however, is a more rational, a more robust measurement, which is reputasi, the actual halal reputation. So in my research, I defined a measurement to measure the corporate halal reputation, which not only gives a perspective to the past actions and halal performance of the company, but also will show the future ability of the firm to meet halal requirements. And so in my halal reputation index, next slide, I have 4 important drivers. First one is halal authenticity, which is the halal DNA of the company, which is based on the halal strategy. So has the company a solid halal policy? Is there strategic alignment, internal alignment within the company and its supply chain, but also external alignment with Muslim communities? It is shown that if the alignment, both internal and external, is very good, you have a better resilience in case of a halal issue. Thirdly, in the halal authority, the halal maturity of the company is good. Do you take a product approach, a supply chain, or a value chain approach to halal? A second component in the reputation index is which halal certification body are you using as company? You're halal certified by the certification body, but there are 400 to 500 different certification bodies. So if you're certified by the Indonesian halal certification body, BPAPH, it's globally recognized as compared to some European halal certification bodies, which are not recognized and do not have the same standing as the Indonesian halal certification body. The third component is messages by company and supply chain partners, which are based on, is there a reputation strategy, a halal reputation strategy? Is there a blueprint for issue management? Do we have a crisis manual that addresses halal? And finally, important driver in the Halal Reputation Index is measuring of the external stakeholders, is looking at how are you connected to Muslim communities? What is the current media coverage on your brand related to halal? Is it positive, neutral, or negative? And what is the corporate track record on halal issues? So I'm asking, I'm hoping that companies are embracing a new measurement to measure their corporate reputation, adopting the Halal Reputation Index. Next slide. You can also relate the Halal Reputation Index drivers to the actual market requirements, which is important to do because every country has its own fatwas, its own halal standards, which might change the halal requirements over time. With a new law, like Law 33 in Indonesia, the halal requirements change. So by a changing of new rules, by the introduction of new fatwas, your license to operate of a brand operating in Indonesia might change. So it's always good to relate those drivers of the Halal Reputation Index to a country's halal ecosystem. And that is what you do with the license to operate rating. So next to the Halal Reputation Index is good also to measure the license to operate rating as a new KPI for top management operating in Muslim countries. Next slide. So this was my presentation. For more information on these topics, please visit halalbusinessmanagement.com or my YouTube channel, Halal Business Management. Please stay healthy. May peace be upon you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco. Very interesting presentations. I read many things about the halal supply chains actually, and how the next development that you mentioned about reputations index, and also the last one, license to operate. This is very interesting to be discussed later. But next, we'll move to Professor Irwandi Jaswir. From Professor Tariq, we learn about the Islamic economy and move to the green economy. From Professor Marco Thiemann, we hear about how to implement the supply chains cluster to bring the reputations. And now from Professor Irwandi Jaswir, maybe we can hear from Professor from the halal science, how difficult to do the research and how too difficult to implement the research in the halal. The time is yours, Professor Irwandi, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Afdal. I would like to thank Bank Indonesia for kindly inviting me. I think this is not my first time to be invited by Bank Indonesia. I feel honored to be here today. Especially, I would like to thank Pak Perry. And also, I would like to say salam, Prof. Sanu Khutub. Assalamualaikum, Prof. And also the fellow speakers. Thank you very much. Allow me to talk a little bit on the halal science. This is my research interest in the last couple of years. I give my presentation title, Holistic Halal Supply Chain Challenges in Providing Halal Materials, Food Authentication, and Traceability. My name is Irwandi Jaswir. I'm an Indonesian, currently serving International Institute for Halal Research and Training, International Islamic University, Malaysia. Next slide, please. Yeah. Brothers and sisters, we know that when we talk about halal, the concept in Islam is very, very holistic. It is halal and tayyiban. It's always mentioned in Quran, halal followed by tayyiban. And it is a concept from A to Z, concept from farm to plate, concept from the source of origin till the end products, storage and distribution. Halal nowadays is not seen by the Muslim only. It is also seen and given attention by almost everyone, including non-Muslims. Many non-Muslim, majority Muslim countries are also look into halal. The halal business industry is a strong promoter of the socio-economic growth in many Muslim majority countries, and therefore efforts to improve halal governance and product supply chains are continuously being intensified. We know that, as mentioned by Professor Marco Thiemann just now, that many Muslim countries are not main player in the industry. When we look at the importance of halal to the Muslim, I think we have to start from very beginning. There are 5 that we record in our papers, that there are 5 importance of halal to the Muslims. Number 1 that we have to bear in mind is that halal is obligation to God and religion. So it should be the foundation, the basis for us to start everything else. So we have to start with that. This is obligation to God and religion. Then we move to the business. Second is a huge global halal market potential. More than 80% gap between demand and supply nowadays, where Indonesia should take the opportunity. More than 80% of the gap between demand and supply of that halal products. Number 3 is people welfare. Halal industry provide broader job opportunities and increase the safety of the products. Many halal products are consumed by non-Muslim as well. I was told that 65% of halal meat exported by New Zealand, 65% are exported to non-Muslim countries. So meaning that halal meat is consumed by 65% of the halal meat consumed by non-Muslim countries. Similarly to Malaysian scenario, out of 20 major importers of Malaysian halal products, 18 of them are non-Muslim countries, and the top 2 are China and United Kingdom. So halal is more toward lifestyle instead of that religious obligation. Next is increasing domestic demand. Muslim nations are not importer, are net importer. Yeah? Muslim nations are net importer of various products, including halal products. So most of our products are coming from the non-Muslim countries. And of course, the last one is economic welfare. Halal gives added value, promote trade and investment. When we look at this slide, from A to Z pathway, from scientific perspective, in almost all steps of this, there is potential for non-halal contamination. When we talk about the holistic concept, because it is a religious obligation, we have to make it clear that in every step there is no contamination. However, it is there. Yeah. Permitted animal, for example, the slaughtering house, for example, a lot of hanky-panky. Yeah, we visited many slaughterhouse. It is halal during the visit, during the audit, but after that we do not know. If they follow MUI standard of procedure or JAKIM, for example, the slaughterman that slaughter the animal must be practicing Muslim. But sometimes when we observe in the field, many of non-Muslim also the slaughtermen. This is the reality. So the integrity of the halal supply chains must be intensified. The next one is processing and additive. The use of ingredients and additive are very, very critical in the halal industry. That's why the research on these two are very, very important. Next slide, please. Last year in 2020, we have published one book, Daftar Referensi Bahan-bahan yang memiliki titik kritis halal dan substitusi bahan non-halal. Alhamdulillah, thank you KNEKS for funding this research, and we published the book here. From our research, we found that many ingredients used by the industry in Indonesia are imported and mostly from non-Muslim countries, while we actually have the potential to explore the resources, and we develop and produce ourselves. Among the food ingredients with halal critical points in Indonesia, number one is gelatin. Indonesia import more than a few 100,000 tons a year, with million rupiah used for the import. While we have, from our research, we have kambing, we have a fish gelatin, we have a source of cows, etc. That we never think to explore it. So if Indonesia would like to become the world halal hub and leading in the halal industry, we have, number one, to explore our potential. Ladies and gentlemen, that I would like to tell you that 65% of the gelatin used in the world market are derived from pig, either from pig skin or pig bone. And 20 to 30% of other gelatin are derived from halal animal, but not slaughtered according to Islam. So we have only 5 to 10% halal gelatin in the world. While we know that gelatin is used extensively in food, cosmetic, pharmaceutical, and many other products. This is an issue. Second, the flavors. We also lack of this. We import this mostly from Netherlands and European countries. Oleoresins, seasonings. We have a lot of seasoning, but we do not explore this. Enzyme, it is used mostly in beverage, in the pharmaceuticals, and also in the food productions. Food colorants, antioxidant, emulsifier, etc. We have all these things, and we already identified, and we wrote in this book. And the book is downloadable at this link, and then you may visit the KNEKS, and then you can download for free. So a lot of issue for us in the Muslim countries. Next slide, please. That's why the research, innovation, and development on the halal authentication and also traceability are very, very critical if we would like to become the world halal hub. It is impossible for us to step forward to become the leading countries in the halal industry without strengthening our research, development, and innovation. I give you a few examples. Due to the potential, various countries, not Indonesia, and regardless they are Muslim majority country or not, this is from our record, are moving up fast in capturing opportunities offered by halal industry. Malaysia, for example, is set to announce its halal industry master plan 2.0 towards a more visible, prominent, and globalized halal Malaysia. Japan announced that halal has been identified as a key source of contributor to Japan economy with the 2020 Summer Olympic, the last Olympic, as a catalyst. Similarly to Korea, I've been once invited by a member of parliaments in Seoul, and then I see how Korea eagerly would like to get into the halal industry. South Korea is visioning to become one of the main tourism destinations for Muslim tourists. Brazil is the largest supplier of halal poultry to the Middle Eastern countries. United Arab Emirates is visioning to become the center of Islamic economy, focusing on Islamic finance and halal. Thailand, our neighboring countries, is one of the world's largest producers of halal processed food. In terms of halal food, I think Thailand is the most, the country with the most enjoyable 3.1 trillion US halal industry. Yeah. And they have the slogan, tagline, that Thailand is the kitchen of the world, even though only 5% are Muslim in Thailand. And last is Australia. It's also the largest supplier of halal beef to most of the Muslim countries. And research on halal authentication, to me, is one of the key elements that we need to strengthen. Yeah. We do not see, especially in Indonesia, after I go through here from Banda Aceh to Sulawesi, for example, visiting many universities, I do not see any strong research institute in Indonesia. We need to have one like Chulalongkorn, one in Chulalongkorn University in Thailand, where they develop not only halal materials, but also halal authentication, how to identify the non-halal contamination, etc. This is what we have done. For example, in Malaysia, we conducted a lot of R&D on halal authentication using various instruments. And I would like to encourage my researchers, my fellows in Indonesia, academics, to go and work together to start developing the research related to halal. Next slide, please. Yeah. When we talk about halal research, of course, we need collaborations. In collaborative platform, there are 8 clusters, and then it is already documented here in Malaysia by Academy Science of Malaysia. Number 1 is a capacity building. We need to have more and more university offering a program in halal, more and more university to establish a research center or research institute related to halal. And if possible, we want to include the halal research is part of the BRIN. Yeah, BRIN. Yeah, we have a strong discussion, intensive discussion before with our former Minister of Research, Ristek. Yeah. Unfortunately, now no longer the ministry, and then now it is under BRIN. We want to make sure that the halal is a part of the BRIN activities. Second one is connectors. There must be a connecting institution or connecting person from research to the application or to the production. I have a data saying that in Indonesia, less than 20% of the research that goes into production or to the end of products. It's similarly with Malaysia, about 20%. When we compare to other advanced countries like Korea and Japan, in Korea, 87% of the research are linked to the industry. In Japan, 70-something%. And the more advanced the country is, the closer the research to the industry is. This is what we have the scenario in our country. Our research, most of our research are stopped in the university level, or at most it is only in the publication. The next one, producers and manufacturers and technology providers, financing providers, standard regulation, and supply chain and logistics. And I think we need to have an institution that can connect all these 8 clusters. In Malaysia, for example, it was once under the Deputy Prime Minister office. So there is a loose coordination here, but that have a regular meeting for that under the Deputy Prime Minister office. because of all these things that you want to become the leading nation in halal industry, we have to strengthen all this cluster. Next. Okay. So what the trend in halal authentication? Ladies and gentlemen, actually there are three challenges when we develop a halal integrity. The challenge number one is of protecting halal integrity throughout supply chains. Because sometimes in the production house, the product is halal, but in the middle way, when it comes from the manufacturing to the end products, during the transport, etc., there is a contamination. This is how to protect the halal integrity throughout the supply chains. And to protect this, we need the research and innovation. The second challenge is that the halal industry is getting more complex now. Ordinary people may not know what the ingredient is all about. For example, it is in the label, it is mentioned riboflavin, palmitate, for example, cyanocobalamin, or some other additive here. In food industry, more than 500 additives are added here in the production. So we need to ensure that throughout the halal supply chain, the product is purely halal. That's why I would record here three technology or research that we need to strengthen. Number one is data science and big data, blockchain, etc. need to be strengthened to have integrity of halal. Number two, devices for rapid tests, because not all the sample need to be brought to the lab. Only the skillful person can analyze the research. But we need something that ordinary people can understand. We developed in Malaysia electronic nose that ordinary people can check. Use. They have the nose is very, very cheap, only 50 ringgit a piece. And then ordinary people, if they don't trust the sample, they just buy the sample and then check. Within 1 minute, you can get the result, what the alcohol level, what the lard level, for example. And the third is the halal authentication of a product in digital platform. I think we need to strengthen the digital platform. We need to encourage more entrepreneurs in digital because this is the future of the business. I take the data from Intellectual Property Office, IPO, that in the next 30 to 50 years, out of 10 future technology, 6 of them related to IT. And I think this is the time for the IT person to get involved in our halal industry, because this is the future of the industry. Next. Yeah, thank you. That's all what I could share with all of you. Thank you very much again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Irwandi. It's very timely. Yeah. Okay. Very informative information that you mentioned about the development of halal authentication research, and also how to link from research into the industrial product. And we'll have more discussion later, but I will move to our next speaker, Ibu Amalia Sarasanti from Paragon Technology. We heard from Professor Irwandi and then also Professor Marco Thiemann to become the company who has halal as a reputation. We know Wardah as a brand from Paragon. I think we will learn a lot of many things from Ibu Amalia. This time is yours, Ibu Amalia.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for Bank Indonesia for inviting us to these sessions. Today, Wardah will share about how we actually pioneering as a halal lifestyle in Indonesia. and how do we embrace the opportunity during these pandemic situations. Okay, let's start. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so as we know, how is actually, this pandemic impacting the whole industry? Global halal cosmetic business size before pandemic was, 66 billion. And of course, it gives a significant impact on this pandemic, gives a significant impact on cosmetic consumptions. Based on the data that we got, globally, the consumptions reduced by 2.5% last year. Yeah, and the scope of cosmetic itself is very big. Skincare is actually one of the cosmetic scope. And within that cosmetic, there are categories that, actually able to survive. And there's also categories that's actually really impacting due to pandemic. Skincare, for example, is a very good category that able to survive, increase its relevancy to this pandemic. While the other, for example, lip, globally, we get this data globally that, cosmetic and fragrance, fell into 55% versus before pandemic. The good thing is that in Indonesia, the results actually far more better than that. Okay, so the key question that always comes to us is that, how does actually Wardah adopt? How Wardah is basically sustained, and how we embrace this into opportunity, especially as as number one player, the market is basically us. How do we help the whole of ecosystems bounce back? Okay. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so how do we seize these opportunities during this pandemic era? I think number one, I think most of the industry will do is about adaptive. How do we adaptive? And the way we do adaptive is basically by empathizing consumers more. We are basically changing the way we do product innovations design. In a few weeks after the pandemic hit, we launched the hygiene products, hand sanitizer, soap, hand wash, more hygiene needs back that consumer needs, and we need to be continue stand with Wardah loyal consumers. Along through the time, we understand there are more screen time like this, like we have now. And basically, maybe not many of you aware, there is a blue light impact as well. That's actually able to make the skin dull, and do a pigmentation, so that after that, we launch a series that give you blue light protections. Again, from this, basically on how we basically continue the relevance to our consumers is very important. Cosmetic itself, being specific, all is actually wearing masks while they're going out. So it's important for us to continue give innovations on transfer proof cosmetics in order for consumers, to continue be able to do their makeup within their mask. Yeah, and in Indonesia, there is a health concern arise as well. This health concern arise. There is a new routine in Indonesia, that in the morning people do sunbath to get natural sunshine and increase immunity as well. Hence, there is a huge need of sunscreen. And because of that, we launched a huge series of sunscreens to accompany Indonesians female consumers. And because of that, we bounce back. The result is fantastic. And specific on cosmetic as well, there's many people, basically ask this question to us. Specific on lip, how do you survive? There's a very interesting finding. It's about during these pandemic situations, we are staying at home, we are getting bored, we are basically would like to get excitement. In the early days, in the early weeks, you were trying to cope. And after that, consumers would like to dance with the situations. And that is the role of this brand. How this, Wardah able to continue fascinating consumers. So during we were launching a Korean editions. How is actually people love to travel. So we launched these Korean editions. We do a virtual vacation and everything. And the result is fantastic. It's basically triple than our initial target, the result. So the bottom line is that is about adapting, is about empathizing consumers, is about be there with consumers and provide the right solutions. We can go to the next slide. And being specific questions come to us is actually, how do we leveling up digital experimental experience during this pandemic? You know, in the cosmetic industry, face-to-face is very important because you would like to get an advice from the advisor. So during this pandemic, that is actually, of course, something that we can't do. Therefore, we come up with a virtual try-on so consumers can continue experimental our product in the safety net situations. We're basically transferring our thousands of beauty advisor offline into an online. So we are there for our consumers, beyond personal shoppers. So, and there are many others digital experience that we do, yeah, in order to accompany consumer. For example, live streaming is getting bigger. In live streaming, you have, you know, different type of experience in shopping online. So that's something that we do on how continue delighting consumers during this pandemic era. Next slide. Now the questions coming to us is about how is WADA designed a global innovation ecosystem. Starting from the beginning, we built this company. Halal is already engraved into our operations. Along with our journey, we spread the wings of global halal supply chain. And specific in the context of product making, we are basically collaborating with the global expertise on product research and development. We are basically, you know, collaborate with, you know, more than 300 experts in 25 countries across the world in order to create a great product. Yeah. Prof. Irwandi mentions about halal identifications. It's something that we really encourage for us to do. Starting from the beginning, when we do a partnership on global halal raw material, halal certified finest ingredients is actually important for us. Before we're making formulations, number one, and basically we were obviously standard is about is it halal certified. Yeah, so that's really important, and we only collaborate with halal certified raw material. So from the sourcing itself, making into a production process is only process of halal certified. So we ensure that, you know, non-halal particles during productions is coming from sourcing, making until it's distributed to the consumers, to the eye of the consumers. So we are basically encouraging, and we are basically would like to participate in how to make this global ecosystem big, because we believe, you know, that the opportunity is big. Next. This is just a given examples how that, you know, we live up this global halal supply chain ecosystem, that many of our product is coming from halal raw materials around the world. And through the journey, we already, you know, 35 years in this industry. During these 35 years in industry, we experience how is basically manufacturer turn their factory into the halal, and how is actually we collaborate into even more stronger collaborations in order to create a great product for consumers. It's not only great, it is also create a high-tech product for consumers. Next. So we're talking about how do we survive during pandemic? How do we create global halal supply chains?
Okay.
And this is, we're going to talk about how do we grow global halal lifestyle. We're starting this business way back when people are not really into values of halal lifestyle. Like Prof. Tariq Khan explained earlier. We need to drive these values of halal lifestyle. That's why WADA, as the pioneer in Indonesia halal lifestyle, we should do it. So WADA is basically pioneer in Indonesia modest venture. Jakarta Modest Fashion Week. In 2014, we took the Indonesian designers into New York Fashion Week, introduced how is actually Indonesia Modest Fashion Week to the world. And it's not only that, we are not stopping that. We are going across the world to educate about halal lifestyle fashion. We go to Paris, we go to Seoul, we go to many countries to educate this. That's why WADA is really encouraged to have this global partnership and collaborations in order to make this global halal lifestyle getting bigger. And it's not only that, it's not only about fashions. When we talk about lifestyles, we talk about halal values as well. So we're also partnering with the people around the world. For example, we're partnering with Dr. Susan Karlan from Sydney, an educator and author. She's basically sharing about how she educates her community on educations. And this is one of the things that we do. How do we connect this? How do we create connections of global halal lifestyles so that we can help one into another? Next slide. As a result, of course, WADA is number one most loved brand in Indonesia. We are number one in beauty. We are number one in cosmetic. And this reasons during pandemic situations, we are number one face care brand in Indonesia as well. We are sold 500,000 pieces products a day, alhamdulillah. And from the Euromonitor, WADA is actually posted as a global fastest growing brand. So there are many reviews from Harvard as well about WADA. So yeah, that's the stories about how is actually WADA starting the journey. How do we are basically try to survive and embrace during these pandemic situations? And how do we encourage and embrace also global halal lifestyle so that we can, stronger together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Amalia. I think we should give applause for all our speakers today. Very interesting. Yeah. Let's start our Q&A discussions. I will start our discussions with the question to Professor Tariqullah. Professor Tariq, we learn from Paragon Technology and Innovations, from WADA, how the company moved from the red economy and then to the more sustainability, more green economy to create more value to the customers. So WADA is one thing of the example, the industry who implement the halal economy. What do you think? How difficult for the existing industry try to switch, to move from the red economy to the green economy, especially in the halal area? Please, Professor. Professor Tariq?
Thank you.
Yes.
This is a key strategic issue facing the transformation of economies. In my view, we look at the whatever is halal, which most of it doesn't need certification. If I have to buy a car, I don't need a halal certification. But if I have to buy meat, then I need halal certification. So from my point of view, the car is also a part of the halal economy. And even if we look at from the narrow point of view of the meat industry, there is the technology is so fast moving. Our professors here, the two of them are, of course, they are expert in it. The food technology itself is so fast moving that many scientists say that in the food industry, there's going to be one of the tremendous disruptions within 5 years, not later than that. So basically, it is very challenging. And what I was emphasizing is that this transformation is exactly in line with the original values of Islamic economics, that is being Khalifatullah fil earth is a great responsibility. Our Prophet being Rahmatul Alameen is a great honor for us, is a great actually advantage. So we have this responsibility to work harder towards that direction. And if we look at what is halal and Thaimann, probably it would be an organic halal, because about 50 years ago, 70 years ago, there were no synthetic food for animals and birds. There were no pesticides. There were no other hazards. But now it is mixed up, as the two presentations made it very clear that now the food itself is very complicated because of the so many elements coming into it. So the transformation is not easy. It may even be costly. And therefore, Islamic finance, the social Islamic finance, and the commercial Islamic finance have to work together to help the halal industry and Islamic economy to transform. There's no other alternative but to transform.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So the transformation is not easy. Yes, is the key. I think. What do you think about the government's area in these transformations? How governments with the regulations can accelerate the transformations into the sustainability of the halal industry?
This question is to me again?
Yes.
Yeah. Most welcome. So if we look at the global level, this interest of the governments in the transformation is unprecedented. Whether it is because of the Paris Agreement or whether it is because of the Sustainable Development Goals, and from our Islamic economics point of view, Islamic finance point of view, there are a number of great initiatives which already are there. The Malaysian value-based intermediation, the Indonesian sustainability blueprint, and now there is something going on in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian Green Initiative, which is also the Arab Green Initiative, and then the major European Green Deal. All these and many others are very transformative. So they are changing the whole landscape of the business. And therefore, I wanted to emphasize that this is an opportunity for us, Islamic economics and finance, to be in the leadership of this responsibility race. And still, I believe that very few of us researchers are taking up this challenge to provide alternative models. So indeed, the governments have a great responsibility. And one of the major responsibility for the governments will be to bring together the Islamic social finance, the Islamic commercial finance, and the halal industry to address this challenge. Probably that's one of the major things the governments can do.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Tariqullah. Next, I will read the question from the participants. The question is from Professor Marco, coming from Sister Khairunisa. Professor Marco, halal logistics is one of the supporters of halal value chain that should not be ignored. In Indonesia, there are around 1,500 logistic companies, but there are only 7 companies that provide halal logistics services. In your opinion, how important is halal logistics to be a priority for policymakers in developing the halal ecosystem? Please,
Thank you,
Professor
Pak Afdal, for this question. When we are moving towards an halal supply chain and even an halal value chain, logistics will play a key role. So halal logistics is needed in order to reduce cost for halal products, also to allow for collaboration. When you're collaborating, like for example, Wardah collaborating with their competitor, Unilever, might be very sensitive. So maybe logistics service providers can facilitate collaboration in transportation and storage. And so the logistics service provider will play a key role when moving from a product approach towards a supply chain and halal value chain, in order to reduce cost and in order to protect the halal integrity along the supply chain and also the corporate reputation. Currently already in the Indonesian halal regulation, the HAS 23,000, but also other regulations in Malaysia, like the MS 1500, it already says that halal needs to be segregated from non-halal in transportation and storage. However, the enforcement of the halal authorities, like in Malaysia, JAKIM, in Indonesia, MUI for audits, or BPPH, they are not enforcing this throughout the supply chain. So a lot of companies have not been proactive on this in addressing also the logistics of the regional distribution center, their transportation and warehousing. So there is I think higher enforcement is needed, first of all. Also, the supply chain standard is needed. So OIC SMIC created an OIC SMIC 17 standard on halal supply chain management. So that new standard needs to be, I think, also adopted by Muslim countries, which is a reference for halal logistics, for warehousing, also transportation and also retailing. And so there's a need for a new standard. There's a need also for education on this, because logistics will play a key role when a country wants to move towards a halal supply chain and halal value chain. And maybe there can also be incentives given for logistics service providers if they are getting halal certified. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco. But I want to ask more about this one. In your presentation, you mentioned about the halal reputations management. So this is like a reputation index. Do you think this will encourage the industry players to implement the standard and all you mentioned about the implementation of the halal logistic? What do you think, Prof?
What I see that a lot of companies are still looking at pure compliance with the halal regulation of the halal certification body they're certified with, which is a product focus often to halal. So the halal is a responsibility of the halal management team, which used to be quality, and now we have the halal management team as a kind of halal department in the company, and they are responsible to make sure they keep the halal certificate. So they are very often targeted to what are the regulations from the halal authority and make sure that we keep our halal certificate. Often what I see is that top management is not involved in halal. So they don't have key performance indicators at management level which are halal related. They might receive a report from the halal management team, but they don't have KPIs. So I think it is important when halal becomes more complex towards a halal value chain, you need to have key KPIs to protect your corporate halal reputation. So halal halal reputation need to be an important for at boardroom level. So that is what I have been hoping to in my research to contribute to, is to create awareness that top management should get involved in halal and not just leave this to the halal management team or halal committee of a company. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco. Yeah. Before move to the other questions, I want to greet Dr. Omar Hafiz, President of International Association for Islamic Economy. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Omar Hafiz. Thank you for joining our plenary session and discussions. Okay. And the next questions, I will give the question to Professor Irwandi Jaswir. From the presentation, you mentioned about the R&D, halal materials, halal ingredients. How difficult to bring this research to become mass productions and to link the research on halal ingredients to be linked with the industry. In what area do we need to improve about this linkage, Professor?
Yeah, thank you, Pak Abdal, for the questions. It is very, very tough question, actually. Basically, the issue of research and development, the journey from research and development to the final products, I think has been there for a long, long time. It's not only in the halal products, not only in the halal industry, but for any other products, I believe. And then it depends on the country. Yeah? Some country who is very intensified in research, they give more focus. I think the barrier from R&D to the industry, it's not that the gap is not that big. But for developing countries, I think in Indonesia included, it's still a lot of things need to be done, a lot of challenges for us. I would say that it is because of the research ecosystem that we do not have, that we do not be strong enough to do that. How long does it take from R&D to the final product? It depends on the product. Some of the product are very, very short. Within 1 or 2 years, you may get the final product. An example for this is the vaccine. Vaccine research, vaccine COVID-19 vaccine research just started in the beginning of the outbreak, the pandemic. Then within 18 months, they produced the first vaccine. So it could be like that, but some of the research need a long way from R&D to the final product or to the mass of production. And then what do we need to improve? I think in the context of Indonesia and many other Muslim countries, we need to intensify our research ecosystem, research culture. I have read when we talk about the research culture, research intensification, it's include various factors, funding, for example, the policy, and then the quality and quantity of the researchers. So this is the thing that we have to look at. A lot of parameters, a lot of not parameters, a lot of index that we can see where our position is currently. For example, there is a statistic on the research of scientific productivity. This is one of the indicators. The scientific productivity, how many international papers produced in one country divided by the number of the researchers in that particular country. If you see the statistics, very, very discouraging for us, because for Indonesia, for example, our productivity is still very, very low. Yeah. And then, of course, the more advanced the country is, the productivity is much, much higher. The second is the funding. And then where to give, once we have the fund, where to distribute the funding, whether to the halal research or to the other things, because a lot of things need to be studied, yeah, in one particular, I mean, the niche area are very, very various in one country. Yeah? So the distribution is also very important. One of the good example when it comes to the research, halal research, is that in Malaysia, for example, the keywords halal has been in the research policy since more than 20 years ago. So meaning that when you submit the research proposal to the government agencies and then you put the keyword halal, whatever research that you do, the chance for your proposal to be accepted is much higher, meaning it is already in niche area. So to establish the halal ecosystem is very, very important. And then of course, the last one that we need to improve is that there must be, when I say middleman, maybe it's too negative, but there must be an agency, perhaps from the government, that can bridge a researcher to the industry. We know that the nature of the researchers, they can do research, but they do not know how to sell the research output. There must be an agency or government agency that can link this. They come to the university, discuss with the researcher what your output so far, and then who the takers, they can find the takers, from the industrial sectors. So this is what I can share. Yeah, the lacking is more on the research culture and the research ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Irwandi. But I have more questions about the research halal authentications to you.
Yeah.
Do you think the research on halal authentications, if it's become the product that can be used by customers, it will change the lifestyle of the customers? What do you think about that?
Yeah, to me, halal is about integrity, halal is about integrity. When we trust the product, the more awareness that we have, and then the people will search only the halal product. Yeah, so this is what I would like to say, that if in one country where the halal awareness is high, the demand for the halal product is there. Yeah, so it is a business. So the halal authentication will change the lifestyle, will change the way we look at the product. I think so, because number one, a lot of now, this is the era of the social media era of the information IT technology, where we get the information very, 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 very quick, very fast. And then if, let's say, there is a non-halal product, or there is a non-compliant, for example, in one particular products, and then easily people will not buy it. For a lot of issues, for example, recently we have in Malaysia, the one ice cream a couple of years ago. And then within 2 days, the country lost millions, because the people do not want. So now we had to equip the halal awareness with the simple and rapid authentication method. For example, if you suspect something, you go to supermarket and you suspect something, and then you cannot just buy and then you sell, you send to the government agency, let's say Department of Chemistry, to do research for you, to analyze. No, we need the people, because this is the right of the Muslim consumers. If you find something suspicious, and then it should be, there should be a method, a way for you to analyze by yourself. And this is the importance of the rapid authentication. I think the trend toward that point. And then you already started. Many countries now, like Russia and Germany, they sell a very rapid method. It's like test kit based on DNA, based on the protein metabolite, or based on the enzymatic process. They sell it. And again, it's not a Muslim produced this method test kit. Yeah? It's like a pregnancy test. You are not sure, you test it. If you're not sure about the product, halalness of the product, you test it. Within 1 minute, you can get the result. So I think that the trend of the lifestyle, our lifestyle, is toward that point, because the halal awareness is increasing everywhere now. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Irwandi. The next questions coming from Ms. Eka Yuliana to Ibu Amalia from Paragon Technology. Bu Amalia, in Indonesia, many international cosmetic products still not been certified as a halal product, but WADA already do the certifications. How WADA can compete with all the international brands? Some of them are maybe still not certified as halal product, but many of them also want to move into the halal cosmetic product. What do you think about this, Bu Amalia?
Okay, thank you, Ibu Eka, for the questions. Number one is actually about halal MUI. I think the accreditations coming from halal MUI is giving a clear halal assurance for Indonesian consumers, and that's actually very important. And one of the advantage of WARDA is that we also ensure that the halal logistic from end to end is within the halal chain, warehousing and everything, because we do it with our sister company. So within that WARDA itself, that the whole of end to end, we're basically ensuring it's halal. Now, the second question is that with doing that, is that enough to compete with the international brands? I think for consumers that is actually living the values of halal lifestyle, those information is important for them. They need to get that assurance. But apart from that, when we're saying about cosmetic beauty products, a great high product efficacy is also important. So in WARDA, based on the research that we do within our million of consumers, number one that I recall about WARDA is about halal assurance. And second is about great innovative products as well. So for us, it's actually our strategy is that how do we continue leveling up this halal? How is actually this halal becoming the vehicles as well to ensure, we have the high-tech ingredients, collaborations with other global halal partnerships in order to continue deliver high innovative product for our consumers. And data is basically showing, because we are number one beauty company in Indonesia, our growth is basically outpace the growth of international brands in Indonesia. So I hope that you will continue strengthen this strategy moving forward, and we continue strengthen our positions not only in Indonesia, but we also would like to go to other countries as well to introduce WARDA to other consumers across the globe. Thank you, Becca.
Thank you, Bu Amalia. But I have one question to you. I know the cosmetic industry, ingredient for the cosmetic consists of maybe hundreds of materials. And it's not easy actually to find the halal ingredients for the cosmetics. You mentioned that WADA trying to get sourcings of the materials from Indonesia and also from international, from other countries. How difficult this process? And do you have any problem to ensure the materials that we use to cosmetic productions are halal? Because we want these perceptions, this methodology also maybe can be used by others company, maybe not in the cosmetic industry, maybe in the food and beverage, to ensure they also sourcing from the halal ingredients.
Yeah. Thank you, Rafael. Yeah, so because halal is our commitment, therefore when we are designing products, starting from formulation itself, it needs to drive from a finest halal ingredients. Now, in order to do so, partnership is really a key. So, of course, we are looking for what are the halal ingredients within the scope that we have in Indonesia. But when it comes to a technology, to innovative product, we need to be open collaborations to non-Indonesian as well. And I think the size of Wardah, the journey that we have right now, is really also an eye-opener for many manufacturers across the globe. So we are basically receiving as well. There are many opportunities, halal ingredients, and other key elements as well for us, in order for us to develop the right innovative products. So in order to answer your questions, now within this 35 years journey of Paragon, we are known as, as a halal company. With the record that we have, we are lucky enough, we are basically exposed to those halal ingredients. And not only about exposing to halal ingredients, we are basically collaborating in creating finest halal ingredients together as well with manufacturer. That's why we can continue to be advanced in halal. So that's answering your question, Pablo.
Thank you, Bu Amalia. Okay. There's a question from the participants, from Dr. Ahmad Afandi to Professor Marco Thiemann. Professor Marco, how do you connect halal value chain that you have present with that of Indonesia Master Plan of Islamic Economy? Any challenge to adopt it in Indonesia, as we are targeting to be the halal global hub? Okay, this is special for Indonesia, Prof. Marco. I know you have many projects with the Indonesia partners. Maybe you can see how Indonesia need to be improved and what are the challenges. Please, Professor Marco.
Thank you for this nice question. Indonesia is indeed very ambitious, I think, in their master plan. Also with Law 33 to make halal certification mandatory. So Indonesia is globally leading this. So it's really an honor also for me to have been involved in several projects. It is complex, the halal value chain and halal supply chain, which is also recognized by organizations such as MUI, BPPH, and KNIKS. So a lot of efforts are needed to make this happen. These are on the regulation side, the halal standards, but also I think there's an important role for halal clusters. So I've been very privileged working in the development of Modern Halal Valley that provides a halal ecosystem to simplify halal, to make the halal supply chain and the halal value chain easier to develop. So as halal becomes more complex, we need to create halal ecosystems that can simplify halal. We also need to look at education. So the halal education, I'm very privileged to conduct a halal masterclass under Universitas Juanda in Bogor. Also, I'm working with IPMI Business School, a university where we also will be launching a halal masterclass on halal business management. So education will be, I think, also important to bring this knowledge to the new generation of Indonesians. And I hear that many more universities are also including this into their curricula. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco. We hope in the future many university business program also adopt halal knowledge, halal industry and their program. Yeah. Next, I want to move to Professor Tariqullah. Professor, in your presentation, you mentioned about the ecological footprints, how to move this to become more green, sustainable economy. Some of the ecological footprints already linked with the investment, what do you call that? Investments, prioritization from the investors. But do you think this ecological footprints will be adopted by the halal producers in Indonesia or maybe in globally? What do you think, Prof? Yeah, that's the question, Prof. Tariq.
Thank you for this very important question. Myself, I studied Islamic economics and finance about 45 years, 50 years ago. And we were taught in the beginning that we need Islamic economics and finance because it is more responsible, more humane, and more inclusive. And even at that time, it was, we used to be learning about the overall universal balance, al-mizan. So those are the ideals of Islamic economics and finance. But within that context of the ideals, the halal is mandatory indeed for everyone. But the question arises that mentioning those contaminations which the professors have already mentioned, what we can do to make it halal and Thailand. So one of the contamination may be the ecological footprint of the halal industry. It is a very serious debate that the meat industry is one of the major source of the methane emissions, which is even more dangerous than CO2. So there are technologies being developed, which I'm sure the professor is very much aware, breakthrough technologies which are addressing this issue of how to reduce the emissions from the meat industry. So I would say that it is very important for us to look into our responsibility as Islamic economics and finance and to address these issues not only from the profitability point of view, but also from the responsibility point of view. So that means that there may be an additional cost of doing the business for the halal industry. But if we consider doing that responsibility as an imperative and very much foundational to the Islamic economy, then we should really, I think in Indonesia, you already have a very good experience with green waqf. We have to redirect the social Islamic finance institutions to addressing these issues. And probably the governments bringing the other philanthropists, the charitable organizations, and the social finance and the Islamic finance coming together, they can develop innovative Islamic financial instruments where the cost of financing, the cost of doing the business to some extent can be subsidized, because this is a good act and this is the interest of everybody is in there. So right now what's going on is that the Islamic banks are moving on the direction of profit. The Islamic social finance is moving on the direction of charitable activities. If they can bring the arrows together and achieving something which is ideal for the Islamic economy, which is having halal and Thailand, which also would include to have an electric vehicle instead of a fossil fuel vehicle. So this is my perspective, that we have to change the whole paradigm to the basic values which contain the Islamic economic and financial system. What has happened is that there has been a disproportionate importance given to halal profits. Yes, halal profits are very much important, but the responsibility to society is even more important. So I think the realization is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Tariq. So responsibility point of view is a key. I think it's not only for profit for the producers. Next, I want to move back to Professor Irwandi. Professor, in order to strengthen the halal ecosystem, what are the roles of universities and research institutions? What are the trends of research and innovations in, say, maybe 30 years ahead that are relevant to the halal industry? What do you think, Professor?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Abdul. Yeah, I believe that in order to strengthen our halal industry or any industry, the key point is research and innovation. It is very, very impossible if we want to establish halal industry, but we forget the research innovation. The research innovation is the foundation here for us to come up with innovative idea, to come up in this case with a halal material, alternative ingredient, for example, halal authentication, develop processing, etc. So everything must come from the research and innovation. Otherwise we will remain as the consumers of the products. This is what we are lacking. I think most of the Muslim countries lacking. We are lacking of the research innovation. For example, as I mentioned in my presentation, slide presentation, we have all the material, raw materials. Yeah. For example, we have raw material for flavorings, for essence, but we sell to European countries. After that, we buy the flavoring for our cake, for our. So the raw material we sell to outside, and then we import again. So many product and derivative from palm oil as well. We sell tocopherol, tocotrienol. This is vitamin available in our palm oil. We sell as a CPO, crude palm oil outside, and then the other country we process, and then we buy back. They sell back to us. So this is the scenario that's happening. To me, R&D is the key. Yeah, we cannot forget one of the most important part in the halal ecosystem is research and innovation. Research and innovation, again, research and innovation. But recently, I visited, just before COVID, I visited the South Korea in one place in the near Seoul. This is one village, where in the village they produce very, very sour lemon that we cannot drink as the drinks. It's very, very sour. By the government of Korea, they provide biofermenter. This is how R&D is very important. What for is biofermenter? Biofermenter will ferment, will transform from the lemon to the vinegar. There are two biofermenters that provided by the government. Number one is to ferment sugar or the fruits to become alcohol, and next fermentation from alcohol to vinegar. And now, this is during my visit, they export to 43 Muslim countries. From that area, from the village, they sell to 43 Muslim countries. And then I asked the CEO, why you sell to the Muslim countries? He said, in Islam, there is hadith mentioning that vinegar is a kind of remedy. Rasulullah said, and it is true. So what we can learn from this, that a non-Muslim, South Korea, they learn our hadith and they produce the industry. They make the industry. And then we just buy the consumers, etc. So I feel very grateful that Wardah just now, I followed the presentation here. And we need more and more industry like Wardah. Yeah. In South Korea, there are more than 2,000 cosmetic factories. And they, according to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs in Korea, they started to get encouraged the industry, not only cosmetic, but also food, supplements, ginseng companies, etc., to be halal certified. And the target is Muslim countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Middle East. And the label cosmetic #1 in Korea, they already groundbreaking ceremony in Johor Bahru. The label of Amore, I think this is label #1 in Korea, cosmetic. Why in Malaysia? Because the target is Muslim countries. So we need R&D, from raw material, R&D to come up with device, R&D to do halal authentication, R&D to follow the mega trend in technology. I mentioned just now about the blockchain, for example, Industry 4.0. This is where we are lacking. If we do not do this in the 30 to 40 years ahead, we remain as the consumers. Halal is our business, a Muslim business, but we Muslim is the consumers of the industry. So this is what the message I would like to convey in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Irwandi. Okay, I think we already almost 2 hours to discuss and about the halal and Islamic economy. But before we end our discussions, I will give time to all the speakers to give their final statement, concluding statement, how Islamic economy and halal industry in the futures will be more developed and also become very good, not only for the Muslim, but also for all the mankind. Please, Ibu Amalia, for your concluding statement.
Thank you. It is very delighting sessions today. For us, it is very critical and important that all of us here grow global halal ecosystem together. From sourcing, making, distributions, and also educate market together. Hence, the growth will come faster. And through well-organized zakat, infak, sodaqah system, we can help ummah to get stronger and usefulness in society, not only Muslim, but people across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Amalia. Professor Irwandi, please.
Yeah, thank you. In the Quran, it said that ya ayuhan nas kulu mimma fil ard halalan tayyiban. The halal concept may be clear for us, especially Muslim. We know this, we learned it from we were small. But the tayyiban concept is something that we need to explore more. the definition of Thailand in the past, we may understand is good, but it could be defined as wholesome. It could be defined as quality product, and also is environmentally friendly. So the way we slaughter the halal animal, for example, and the way we consume food, it might be halal, but not Thailand to us because it is a higher level of cholesterol, higher unbalanced diet, for example. So this thing need to be addressed when we produce halal and Thailand, because the concept halal and Thailand is good for everyone. I think it is the message that I would like to convey in this forum, that it is our responsibility to take part our role in the developing of halal industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Irwandi. Prof. Marco, please, your closing statement.
I think, first of all, that for OIC countries, I think it's crucial to increase the role of the country in the halal value chain. So we need to be able not only to sell crude CPO, but also create end products, ingredients, additives of that. So for OIC countries, they need to increase the role in the halal value chain in production and trade. Secondly, I think we need, as OIC countries, to start branding halal on agriculture, commodities, ingredients, and additives. So no export without the halal logo. Thirdly, I think it's also critical to adopt the OIC SMIC halal standards in order to ensure an effective and efficient halal trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco. Professor Tariqullah, please, your closing statement.
Thank you very much. This session was actually very much educational for me. But I would close this my intervention by saying that whatever has happened to the climate, which the recognition of which is unprecedented, it has happened because of the irresponsibility of businesses. And now we, being halal and Islamic economy, have to take the lead to do businesses which can really heal the ecology and the environment. So this is, of course, a very noble agenda where the governments, the Islamic banks, and the Awqaf and charities should come together to make this happen. So that would be my final word. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tariqullah. Ladies and gentlemen, all the participants, that's the last discussions about the Islamic economy and halal industry. But I think what we have today in our discussions can give a better recommendations to the governments, to the researchers, to the industrial practitioners, to the business owners, to implement not only the Islamic economy to become a profitable economy, but also the economy who has responsibility to make something good, halalan, thayyiban, in Indonesia and also in the world. Thank you very much, Professor Tariqullah, Professor Marco Thiemann, Professor Irwandi Jaswir, Ibu Amalia Sari, for all the discussion today. Maybe we can give applause for all the speakers. Okay, I will move the time, close this with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Back to the MC.
Thank you, Bapak Afdal Aliasar, for leading such a constructive discussion, and all speakers for sharing your invaluable insights. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the first day and plenary session 1. On behalf of the committee, we would like to thank you for your presence and active participation. Hopefully this event will be beneficial for everybody, especially on the important issues discussed. And we would also like to inform you that plenary session 1 materials are available to download by scanning the QR code shown on the screen. And also after this, there will be parallel sessions. Please check the links on the screen for your desired classes. Good afternoon and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.